Welcome, everybody, to another Maxwell podcast. And we're on what is my personal favorite series, Maxwell in the Multiverse, where we explore interesting facets of the lives of practitioners that you may have only seen in the legal side of things. And today we're really privileged to have with us Peter Yuen. And Peter founded the Hong Kong office of Fang Da Partners about 10 years ago, and today he's the head of dispute resolution in Fang Da, Hong Kong. So thank you so much for joining us today, Peter.
Thank you.
So for us, we invited Peter here because we wanted to explore a really interesting hobby that he has, and something which is not something that you see very much, and that is solo camping. So Peter, can you just tell us what is solo camping?
Okay. Well, you can break it down, right? Solo means solo. So I tend to do this on my own. Not necessarily by choice, because my wife and my kids, they don't do this. I mean, they refuse to go with me. And it's not easy to find like-minded individuals who would be prepared to spend, a whole day just doing this camping stuff with me. So I tend to do this on my own, and I actually enjoy doing this on my own because I just find it much more relaxing. I don't need to care so much about what my companions might want to eat or might want to do. I can just do it entirely on my own in my own time. So that's solo, the solo part. Camping is a bit more tricky. Camping means different things to different people. To me, the way that I do it is probably more accurate to say solo overlanding. Now, using overlanding, the word, if you amongst the people who do overlanding, they know what you mean. But to those who don't know what overlanding is, if you look it up, it just means getting it from A to B entirely on land, and that doesn't help you. But overlanding to me means I will use a vehicle, a van or a pickup truck, and I would use that to get all my gear into the vehicle, and I get to a spot, and I would unload, and I would set up a cam or just set up things by the car. So using the car, using the van or the vehicle as part of the overall activities. And do the activities around the car. So that's what I do. And as a result, I rarely, therefore, pick up some people just pick up a rucksack and they have the few essentials, and
Right.
they go to the mountains and they find a spot and camp out, right? I very rarely do this. Partly because I'm quite lazy, but I do enjoy having a vehicle, having a base, around me, so I to do what I need to do.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's really interesting. I guess for you are trying to describe it that way to distinguish from people who climb a mountain or hike into the forest and then pitch a tent.
There is a range. Some people would do that. They would climb the mountains, backpacking, and then pitch a tent, and then just rough it out.
Right.
And that's one extreme. Another extreme is, of course, you have people who just go to a what you call a glamping site, right? So they just pack their the usual things, and they go to a site. They don't need to do anything. Everything is ready, including the food is ready for them. I'm kind of somewhere in between.
Right.
So I don't like to rough it out, but at the same time, I like to do things, cook the food myself, pitch the tent if I want to, and I do that myself. Right.
Yeah, I think that for us, I mean, the people who aren't familiar with all these distinctions, we sort of stick back to the idea of it as being a form of camping, because I guess we're all familiar with using a motor vehicle to get somewhere and to bring our stuff, and even taking things out and laying it out and eating, but people call that a picnic. So the fact that after that you pack up and you go home, we don't, try to, sleep under the stars. Yeah. I think that's what in most people's mind would set it apart from picnicking and camping. And the fact that you have a vehicle, I don't think that's going to change for most people the impression, because even if you were going to hike a mountain, you probably take a vehicle somewhere first. You're not going to walk from your home city, right? So in fact, we have a photo here. Apologies to the podcast audio listeners, but we have a photo here of you actually in one of these settings, and here you are at the back. Sort of the tent is actually part of the rear door of your van, and it's shading you. Yeah. And you have a whole range of things that's been set up around you. You don't just have a lounge chair and a table. You've got like a secondary table, a third table. You have various implements of different sizes. Can you just quickly take us through this setup? Like, what are we looking at? What is this?
Sure. The table in front of me, you see there, that is actually what people call a tactical case. In fact, you can collapse the table into a
bag,
like
right?
like
that black thing
document case,
right?
Yeah.
Okay,
and that's extremely helpful, extremely useful, because I do these sort of solo camping not just in Hong Kong. I would go to Japan to do this as well, and I can just pack all my essential stuff into that bag. And I can carry that with me, take it on the plane, and then get there, get into a car, and do the similar thing. So that is an extremely useful piece of kit. And then you see the side table, the table next to me. I mean that also can use it as a storage as well. So again, the stuff can go in, but you get it out and you can make a table out of it, and that can be another useful thing to have.
But all that stuff in the back behind you, still in the van.
Yes.
Okay,
they're just other bits and pieces.
So let's first of all place this. Where is this? What are we looking at? Where is this place?
Somewhere in Yuen Long, in Hong Kong.
Okay.
It's a pay site, so you pay a couple $100 Hong Kong dollars to spend a day and a night there. Okay. It's pretty basic.
So this is what I find interesting, because you've actually gone and done this in other countries, but I'm looking at an entire van full of stuff.
Yes.
So how do you bring that?
Yeah.
with you?
Well, that's right. When I do this overseas, I would just pick the essential stuff. The essential stuff meaning the things that you need to cook with, eat with, and most of the requirement for fuel, you can get it wherever you are. So I use basically essentially coal or wood fire or propane gas, and that you can source wherever you are. But the essential things that I use, I would pack that into that case, and I would bring that with me. Things that I like, things that I personal to me, and I like to use it wherever I am. That will be in that bag.
Okay, so which means when you are not in Hong Kong, you would rent a vehicle and a few other things, including the fuel and stuff, but you still have your favorite sort of equipment with you. I mean, have you seen like a Vornado fan at the bottom there? I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. And when in Hong Kong, this is one of the vehicles. So I like to use older vehicles. So this is a 1994 Toyota High Ace, not High Ace, Tan Ace. So now it's about 30 years old. I do have another pickup truck, which is a Toyota Hilux first generation. You may have a photo of that. I can send you a photo.
We probably
of
do
that.
have a photo of that.
Yeah, and so I that's just part of the fun. So other than doing all the camping stuff, you're actually enjoying the vehicle as well.
Where do you sleep in this whole setup? Where's your bed?
With the other two vehicles, so I mentioned the Hilux. I also have a Land Rover Discovery. so I can sleep inside the truck and the Land Rover Discovery if I want to. Okay. Right. This one is not large enough for me to sleep in. So if I do overnight, I would have a separate tent that I would pitch, and I sleep in the tent.
So interesting. So how did you get into solo camping or overlanding, as you call it?
It was. It all started back in 2019. It was at the time when, as you may recall, Hong Kong was experiencing a certain movement, right? And it just struck me. It just struck me that Hong Kong, things were pretty unstable. You couldn't tell whether one day you could, go to the market and get the things that you want. There was even fear that one day you could be without electricity, right? Without water. What are you going to do? So I started thinking about it, and I thought, well, why don't I just try to gather sufficient stuff in one place that is going to last me and my family at least for a few days. Like enough water, enough food by way of dehydrated food. Just have that gather in a place, and I had my Discovery then. So I decided to pack all this essential stuff and loaded it into my Discovery, so that if necessary, things are there, and if I need to bug out, I can get into that car and go wherever I need to go. So it all started like that. So I fit out the Discovery, have all the essential things for 4 people for at least a few days, all packed inside. And then one day I came across a YouTube. I saw people doing these sort of overlanding camping stuff, and I thought, well, actually, my Discovery is already ready for that. So why don't I try, right? So that's how it started. But the original idea was just a bit of a doomsday preparation thing.
Like an anti-zombie kit.
Yeah. A bug-out car.
Right. No, that's so interesting. But of course, you mentioned that it's solo because your wife and family aren't that keen to join you.
No. They laughed at me, actually.
So did you manage to get them at all for any camping trip?
Well, my wife did come once, but that was that.
Just to see what she's not missing, right? So where else have you camped? You said Japan,
I said
right?
Japan, yeah.
Various
parts of Japan. So Mount Fuji around the lakes around Mount Fuji, around Lake Biwa, which is further down the south. Is the largest lake of the whole of Japan. Different places in Japan, but I would like to try Hokkaido at some point. Not in the winter; that would be far too cold. I haven't tried it yet because Hokkaido has its challenges. Because there are known wild animals that you need to be careful of. And I need to properly research. It is a concern because one of the things that I think you do need to watch out for when you're doing this sort of stuff is to know your environment. So for Hokkaido, you do have bears, and they do present real danger.
Right.
But notwithstanding that, even where you camp in the places where you think would be safe, you still at night there will be other animals that would come out. They probably won't hurt you, but they will mess up your stuff, right? So you need to think about where you keep your stuff overnight, in a safe place, so that, for example, one time I was in Wakayama. It was perfectly pleasant during the day. So I left all my kids out and I went into my car and sleep. And then, next morning I woke up, things were all over the place. And it was because they were birds. They were birds that would come and pick your stuff, including the rubbish. Oh. So when I woke up, the rubbish were all over the place, and it was a mess, right? So you just need to be aware of your environment.
Right. So one of the things I assume that is a bit of a troublesome thing to do, which is to try and pack everything in before you sleep, right? And anyway, if you do that, you may not have space to sleep.
You probably don't need to pack up everything, but at least you for example, rubbish, right? You could put it somewhere more shielded, right? But one of the things people ask, all this packing and unpacking, isn't it bit annoying, time wasting? Yeah. Actually, packing, particularly the unpacking is fun because you're unpacking and you're building your empire around you, right? So that's exciting. The packing up itself is also nice for me because I don't know, it's just something that you can actually enjoy, knowing that you could build something, and then within a very limited time available, you can just have everything packed up in the right place, neatly. I just find the whole exercise, rather than an annoying part of the whole camping experience, is actually one of the better parts of the camping experience.
Interesting. Packing therapy.
Yeah.
But I can imagine that because there are people who say that, despite the commonly held sense that housework is annoying, there's some people who find it actually, relaxing. Yeah. To just kind of turn off your brain, do some dishes, and then.
Yeah. I usually don't entirely turn off my brain, just given the nature of my daytime job. Mm-hmm. But I do use the time. I think, particularly when I do overnight trip with the campfire going, it's a really nice time to just sit down and reflect. And I even write awards.
Really?
Yeah, I probably shouldn't say that.
but that doesn't that kind of spoil the whole
no,
kind
it doesn't.
of like
no,
holiday
at all.
feel
No,
to it, bringing work with you to do it?
No, it's not exactly. I mean, I do. You see, I'm an entirely iPad person, right? So I'm not talking about, when I go and work, I will lug all the bundles with me. Everything's on my iPad, right? And so, deep in the middle of the night, when you are kind of, thinking, when you're relaxing, but at the same time you can really focus because there's nothing, nothing around you, no emails, and nothing is beeping away. That's the perfect time to just get your iPad out and start really looking at the stuff that you want to look at and think about it.
Interesting. I think all arbitrators
but
think about that.
Well, think about it, but I don't think it works for everyone. It works for me.
So besides the packing and unpacking, what exactly about this really, draws you to this? I mean, after your first time out of curiosity, and you've gone and done it many more times, what do you love about this whole solo camping overlanding thing?
It's really the solo part. Is the ability, or is having the knowledge, knowing that you can do it on your own. Mm-hmm. You can survive on your own, and also the organization that goes into every trip, the planning that goes into every trip, and the execution of that planning. That to me it's like running a case, but in a sort of a different setting. That's satisfying. Every trip is a project. Is a little project. You try out different things. You try out different ways. You try out different recipes for your dinner.
Right. But how do you stay safe in these places when you're alone? I mean, besides the animals, what about humans? potential
Well,
thieves or robbers or whatever?
Hong Kong is fine actually, because you don't wear your expensive Rolexes on these trips, right? So you be sensible about what you bring. But Hong Kong, I mean, particularly Japan, is absolutely safe. When people see you doing it on your own, they're doing solo camping, they actually respect your space, and they leave you alone. That's really nice, because in Japan is also a very popular activity, and people know, how to respect you, how to give you space, but at the same time, they're also very good in terms of giving you support, helping you if you need support or help. But it's never a safety concern when I'm in Japan or in Hong Kong.
But unfortunately, you've described two of the safest places in the world.
Yes, true.
I
I probably won't do that in. I don't know Australia enough to say whether I can do that or not. North America, maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah.
So actually, that brings us to the question: are there places that you would like to, besides Hokkaido, that you would like to camp?
Oh, Korea. South Korea.
Okay.
South Korea.
In particular, any part of Korea that you've already thought about?
I've seen there are lots of there are quite a few YouTubers who do this sort of camping, and they're from Korea. And I've seen the shots. I've seen beautiful scenery shot by them. Very good campsite facilities that they have. Nowhere in particular. I haven't quite looked into it yet, but that would be the country that I would like to explore. Yeah. I mean, one thing I forgot to mention in Japan in particular, like Hong Kong, they have a lot of campsites, pay campsites, but they also have what we call roadside stations. Right? These are just a station, a sort of area next to the highway where you can rest. They have toilet facilities. They would have convenience stores. Some of them would have even have restaurants there. But these stations will have a large parking area, right? And sometimes if I do camping in stealth, i.e. if I do everything inside the car, inside the van, I could just go to one of these roadside stations and just spend the night there. And some people also call it the stealth camping. Whatever the people would say that's part of the camping, but that's in stealth. So you don't come out of the van, right? You do everything inside the van, including your cooking.
And why? What's the reason? Because it's not allowed, is it?
Yeah, it's a bit of that, because it's not allowed, and therefore you are kind of cheating the system.
Well, I mean, they're not going to stop someone from eating a burger in their own car and taking a nap. But when you start to
technically, some of these stations you can't stay overnight.
I see.
So but these places, some of them have extremely nice. They're surrounded by mountains.
Yeah.
It's such a shame.
Yeah.
It's not being used as a campsite, right?
Right.
And it's free.
I mean, I suppose it's like a truck stop in the US. Where you can a long journey. You come in.
But again, it's extremely safe. You would find people around you doing the same thing. Most people, when they do that, they will use a RV, a big RV. But right. I don't use it. I think RV is kind of the sort of glamping extreme things. And
because you're not really camping. You just can just bring your hotel with you. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but in this case, I mean, how does stealth camping work? Are you like cooped up in your own car for hours, or do you come out and stretch your legs?
The car, usually, if I do that, the car that I use would be like a van, right? With some of them with conversion, right? A converted van, but not an RV, but still is sufficiently equipped so that you can actually sleep and do limited amount of activities inside,
Right.
including cooking, provided that you have all the windows open. Yeah, because usually you would cook with propane gas.
Yeah, but it's not stealth if there's a big chimney or smoke coming out of your car. Right?
It's okay. It's okay. Stealthy enough.
So that's really interesting because so this whole experience of like camping, in a way you sort of compress it into this little location. You don't have to go and hike somewhere. You just drive there and you go straight to the camping experience. And how long does this last for? I mean, how many days or just 1 day, 1 night?
I would, for each site, I would just spend a night. But if I go to Japan, I would do 3 to 4 nights at different locations. So some would be stealthy, some would be open, depending on the site.
And how long does your entire road trip last for? Like you sound like you do this over several sites on the same trip.
On the same trip. So it would be, the whole trip would last just under a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So nowadays, I would plan it in such a way that I don't even need to stay in a hotel. I just get off the plane, go straight to the rental place, get the car ready, and then just drive off and spend a few days like that, touring the country. Yeah,
that's really, really interesting. And so one of the things that I always wondered is that how do you like keep yourself sort of from being bored when you are on an entire trip for that long by yourself, no one to talk to?
People ask me that. You don't, a day you're spending like this, a day can be gone so quickly. You don't. I don't think I really had a dull moment because there are always things to do. There are always food to prep. There are always things to set up, new equipment to try out. I was never bored, never.
Like equipment. What are we talking about? Because I mean, I can imagine it's a propane cooker and that's it.
Well,
right?
the different many different types of cookers. For example, I like to try out new things. Different sort of fire bonfire setup that you can use. So this is one of them. And even just how you set out your cooking implements, right? So sometimes you do this kind of racking. Sometimes you would do a different sort of stacking of stuff. It's difficult to just tell you exactly what, but I do it enough to know there are different ways to try different things for the same purpose.
That's so interesting. And how do you sort of reassure your family that you're safe since you're alone in some part of Japan or wherever?
No, they don't need any reassurance. Yeah, they know. Yeah.
So, but I guess the places you've gone, you're still sort of contactable.
Exactly.
Signal
exactly.
and so on.
Exactly.
You don't go to like the mountains where you lose a signal.
That's right. Which is why I haven't yet tried Hokkaido because there are blind spots in Hokkaido.
Right. Interesting. So what advice would you give to people who are intrigued by what you're doing and they want to do it? Anything that you had to learn the hard way in the first few times?
Now, one thing, again, is not shown here, but with the 2 Arctic vehicles that I do have awnings. So awning is the things that come out and give you the shade. That is not that is a kind of awning, but that is not fixed to the car permanently. So it's just something I set up on an ad hoc basis. But for whatever it is, if you have something like this kind of awning or fixed awnings, make sure you tie it down properly, right? Because sometimes when you get to a site during the day, there's no wind, everything is just you don't need to tie it. You think, okay, well, it's up, you got the legs on the ground, that's it. You can forget about it. Overnight, the wind came and everything we turn upside down. And if you don't have your awning properly tied down, you wake up and you find yourself having a broken awning, which is a real pain. Right. Because not only it costs money to repair, but more importantly, you can't pack it back up properly because because you find it's bent or broken. Right? Right. So tie that down properly.
Okay.
The next thing I would suggest, as I said, is to know your environment, right, and making sure that again during the day. Things are very different during the night, right? So you need to think about when you're asleep, where things should be, and yeah.
Do you have anything to defend yourself against a wild animal?
Usually, no. I don't think. I mean, I've been scared once or twice. Yeah, once or twice. But it turned out it was just just cats roaming about. There's nothing else. I don't have anything specifically. If I know the site is very safe, then I would pitch a tent and I would stay the night in the tent. If I think the site is a little bit iffy, then I would stay in the car.
So they can drive off if anything happens.
Well, and also you're protected while you're sleeping in the car, right? You're protected, right? Okay. So. Yeah. So you need to know your environment, okay, and then prepare accordingly. Yeah.
Any other suggestions like supplies? How much to pack for? Anything to worry about? What you shouldn't bring and what you should bring?
Yeah. Lights, camping lights, right? My experience is that when you are, and particularly the places that I go in Japan, sometimes they get dark quite early. So you should have sufficient lighting equipment which are charged sufficiently so that it will last the night. It's pretty terrible trying to cook when there's not sufficient light, right? So you need to make sure they're ready. Power, right? So some campsites will have electrical outlets that you can charge your stuff. Particularly in Hong Kong, sometimes in the summer it can get quite hot. Not as hot as here, perhaps, but it can get quite hot. So sometimes I will bring with me a portable air conditioning unit, if I'm feeling luxurious about a trip, and you would therefore need a power outlet to do that. What other things?
That's got to be treading on glamping.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know. But sometimes, that's why it's so fun. You can do different things at different, depending on how you feel about the particular day, or what the campsite will allow you to do, right? So you need to adapt, and it's very flexible. Another thing I would do, again going back to this case, is to have a kind of all essential bugout bag. Right, so every time wherever you go, or whichever vehicle you choose, you always have this bag there, which got all the essential stuff there, right? All the essential cooking gear, eating implements, whatever sauces or salt and pepper, everything is there. So you will never, if you forget something on a particular trip, then there's something in the essential bugout bag that should be able to get you through that trip.
Right. So it's kind of like whatever else you do, depending on the environment and the location, you don't change this piece right in the middle, which is always like the foundation of everything else just sits on top of that. Right? Really interesting. Any other suggestions? Should they try it out in a sort of a amateur way first before you go and do like the real expert version?
Well, it's probably not so applicable for Hong Kong or Japan, but I think in places like if you do this sort of long overlanding trip in Australia, for example, you should always try to do a trial run with everything you think you need just for one night to make sure it works. Because otherwise, you go on this big long trip out in the wild where there's no support, you're stuck, right? So again, it's just part of the planning exercise. For Hong Kong or Japan, you don't need to do that. You can just plan in your head and with a checklist, that should be sufficient. But for a long road trip where you're going to be in the middle of nowhere, you really should have a trial run.
Right. So do you see yourself like doing this for the rest of your life? Like even when you're not as mobile in the future as today, not as, alert, would you still do this? Yeah. Or would you start to say, well, maybe I should bring someone else because I'm not as young as I used to be?
I would still do it. I think now I would still, sometimes I will only get to somewhere maybe close to the site, because there are not a lot of sites available in Hong Kong, right? So sometimes I would just get to a site and then walk maybe half an hour with my staff, maybe together with a trolley to get our stuff to the spot, right? So I can still do that. Maybe when I'm less mobile, that would not be part of my thing, or just try to drive right onto the spot, maybe. But yeah, I can see this is this sort of thing can last me for a while, quench my thirst for the outdoor for a while. Yeah.
Would you ever do that in Singapore? I mean, we don't have fantastic views here, but just for the experience.
I'm not sure, because as I said, places like Japan they're very well equipped for that. It's a very common thing for people to do. So you have a lot of good support wherever you go. I'm not sure about Singapore. I mean, I went to. So I arrived here yesterday afternoon, and I went to a camping store. So expecting to see wonderful stuff on display. Pretty disappointed.
Yeah,
pretty disappointed. Yeah. So that suggests to me that maybe
it's not a big thing.
Yeah, it's not a big thing here.
It's not a big thing. It's too humid and rainy in Singapore for camping.
Yeah.
Mosquitoes.
Yeah, I think so.
And all the guys are terribly sick of it, having to serve in the military. So
maybe
camping brings back the wrong kind of memories.
Yeah, and I see that store, having all these very nice outfit, right? But I thought, but you wear this in here? I can't see myself wearing this outfit in Singapore. So I don't know who buy them.
Probably for
overseas trips.
Overseas trips, yeah,
maybe.
That's right.
Maybe. Yeah.
But this has been fascinating, really, really interesting, Peter. And
I have to say, you only do this for a hobby, right? It's not a alternative career.
No, of course,
for anybody, unless you're a full-time YouTuber.
But you never know, because there are people who make a living out of sort of exploring new kind of places and experiences and letting people know. Yeah. Exactly like you did, like what you should do, what you shouldn't do, and who knows where this could go one day.
Yes.
But thank you so much, Peter.
I still intend to keep my day job.
Note to partners, he still wants to work in Fanta. But thank you so much for this. It's been an absolute pleasure, and looking forward to actually having you back for other things that you do in your spare time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Peter.
Thank you again. Cheers.